Yes, guys, mujebale. Ansubire mumpulira. Yes, mubanga mumpulira, that's good. One thing. There we go. Naye mmwe mukimanyi nti okay. Mbali n'ebintu byengoberera. Of course, fena ebibadde bigenda mu maaso tubirabye olwaleero. Si mawulire, but just kugezaako kwekenneenya so that we're not caught on the wrong side of things. Mbadde ndaba program eyo gye bayita NBS gundi anka bagita batya program eyo NBS gye bateekayo ekiro olunaku olwaleero, like every day gye bateekayo program eyo ngibaddeko nga ngiraba. Okay, netwakane katono nnyo. Okay, mbaddeko nga ndaba program eyo. Okubaddeko Mao, Joelo, Mwenda, n'abalala abatera okubeerako bulijjo. Of course, it's overcrowded program. Naye kyokkola tewali. Kakati babadde boogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo, NRM biki, then ne boogerako ne ku byabaddewo olwaleero ebya Kibalama. Yes, ebya Kibalama mbadde mbifollowinga nange okulaba ki ekiriwo. Naye okusooka nabadde ndowooza nti maybe Kibalama yabadde under the influence nti oba bamuka frontline. Naade manyi Kibalama okusooka nti era nga n'abalala mwenna bwe mwalowoozezza nti Guy yabadde ku gunpoint. That's what I thought. Era my first reaction was nti ono fala nti ono mukulu bamutadde ku gunpoint ne bamwogeza ebyo bye bamwogeza era ne bamumakinga sure nti nno akola ebyo yakoze. Now, evidence is coming out ng'eraga nti waliwo possibility ey'okuba nti ebintu bino ebyakoledde omukulu ono birabika, maybe nga tukyusizaamu later, naye ng'ebintu ebyakoleddwa birabika ng'omukyala mwami yabikoze abimanyi, like he knew what he was doing. He was not influenced or anything. Now, because the badde njagala kuwuliriza, the reason as why I watched the Frontline today nga njagala kuwuliriza Joel Ssenyonyi's word oba ddala anamentioninga ekigambo ky'okuba nti omukulu Kibalama was under duress oba okulaga nti yabadde intimidated ne bamuteekako pressure oba ne bamusuubiza omukola anything and then he was forced to make the statements that he made. Unfortunately, maybe nga Joel yerabidde naye statement ye Joel tagikoze. Now, which brings me to the point nti Kibalama ekituufu kiri nti alabika either bamuwadde ssente or there is something that they have against him that actually forced him and coerced him, that forced him to change his statements. Now, I cannot abuse Kibalama, sisobola muvuma. Era sisobola kuvaayo ne ngamba nti otuliddemu olukwe blah 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 blah. Because yakola ekintu abantu abasinga kyebatandiikoledde people power era yatwanguyiza omulimu ebibiina ebirala bye gutandiyanguyiriza ekintu ekirimu ebibiina olunaku olwaleero, for example FDC and DP and other political parties, People's Democratic Party PDP eyabedi bwanika yaliwo. Why didn't Bobi Wine go and join that party? CP eya Kenny Ruchamus weli nayo wankubadde kati wa Besigye. He didn't join it. Ekibiina ekirala bakiyitaani DP. In fact, they have confessed to them, DP nayo yali eyagala kuwa Kyagulanyi card. But there was a catch with all these political parties. There was a catch. The catch was, of course, these parties thought nti ebibiina byabwe byali bijja kuweebwa akabega, byali bijja kuweebwa favors naddala ku candidates baabwe, and then they would give the presidential ticket to Honorable Kyagulanyi because Honorable Kyagulanyi would be a much better presidential candidate under Robert Mao or under Colonel Kizza Besigye and other political institutions than him, than their current presidential leaders, ANT and all these political institutions. Now, we know what Mao wanted and why Mao yagoba enteekateeka za people power mu DP, because everything was going well. Mao n'agigoba. I don't know if FDC gave us a chance. Naye olaba nti nabo balina ambitions zaabwe okulaba nga they don't want to be overcrowded under people power, because the problem is this nti these political parties nazo zamanya nti the moment you bring Kyagulanyi toyinza muleeta as a member, because he had reached a level of being bigger than any political institution in the country. Nti nga newo omutukwata mu kibiina kya FDC n'omuteekamu toyinza muteekamu butesi as a member. Kakati awo political parties zandikoze ebintu bibiri. If for example esinga yali agenze mu DP ne bagamba nti tumuteeke mu kamyufu, they would have connived ne bamukubira mu kamyufu, and it would have been easier for Museveni to connive with these political institutions who are already established, the likes of DP, FDC and all these kind of parties. Ne bazikozesa ne bamuteeka mu kamyufu, ne bamukubira mu kamyufu. Kati okumukubira mu kamyufu bamugamba nti look here guy, tukubye mu kamyufu k'ekibiina kyaffe, wali oyagala tiketi yaffe, wali oyagala kaadi yaffe, kakkana. So just get behind the person who has won. So in the end, people power bakibalamu bagenda okulaba nga nakyo tekikola. That is where this guy of NURP comes in. He approaches them. That is why for me I thank him. Nti yavugako kyavuze n'atutuusaako watutuusizza kati maybe eno ye time ye ey'oku ogamba nti wasalaamu nze mbatuusizza ekyange kyekyo. This is where we call it parts when twawukanira. I think that is I wouldn't make abuses on the gentleman oba kumuvuma nti oba kino oba kiri. No, I wouldn't do that. Because doing that would mean that wait a minute. Because Kunze doing that, it would mean that even Nakatono Kalike Yatukolera, maybe that could appreciate his. And secondly, because if this guy was working for Museveni initially, why would they wait it to be dragged out up to this point? Rachibalinda up to this point to drag it out. Because the moment they knew, if Chibarama was working for the state, guys, tukole tutya. Nti mulekali registering ekibiina tunakitwala edda musaining endagaano and everything endagaano ngeriko $5 million. Who does that? Teri asobola kikola ekyo. Because what they would have done is bandi badde bamukwatira wali. If Chibarama was working with these people, bandi badde bamukwatira wali. Because Chibarama yeyingira deal ng'akimanyi nti yes, okay, njagala ncho n'ebigambo walabira ddala ng'ayogera nga is legit. So what this means is this, nti babadde bamuperereza, babadde bamukowasinga, babadde bamugulirira, and maybe he reached a breaking point. Naga nti ekyokukola sikiina, kankole abasajja kye baagala. And maybe in return for something. Maybe that's what happened. Now, why now? Lwaki kati? Because there are so many questions we need to ask about this entire debacle. Evaddewo olunaku olwaleero. Lwaki bareleasinze video eno ku mukutu ogumu gwe tumanyi ogusambuza propaganda wa Museveni? Nga the last person to use that okubeera ku propaganda oyo yafulumya ka video ku Facebook n'agamba nti banaye mu ntaasa abasajja bakkaka bannyonya nziri ku ddeno kalangala. Omusajja y'omu ye yagamba nti Bobi Wine yatta abantu e Busaabala. Omukutu gwe gumu gwe gugenda kufulumya amawulire. Actually, now that is real propaganda. Like, that is real propaganda. Gwe mukutu gwe gumu gwe gugenda kugamba nti no gwe gwina ba criminals nti bano we bali bakuba obutayimba bano be batta kirumira. But these criminals are not even brought in the courts of law on that same platform. Why did Chibalama make a press conference ng'abalala bonna babadde bagamba nti tetukolagana na people power ne bayita bannamawulire ne bakola press conference maybe ku Hotel Triangle? Where did Chibalama get the money okukola video eri well edited, eri well scripted, and the video is also well shot because you see the lighting na buli kimu? This was a well planned and executed video, eyabadde well scripted bulungi nnyo. Why? These are questions we need to ask. And of course, to another question of affidavits. But the biggest question should be, lwaki akola press conference in fact yagireliizinze kiro saa musanvu. N'obudde bwe bagikoledde mu press conference bagikola budde bwa kiro saawa 8 we bagikolera. Why would you do a press conference at night? Obanga ddala oyagala kulaga abantu nti you are legit, nti era people power yava ku ndagaano twamenye endagaano. Lwaki okola press conference at night? So the thing is this, nti bino byonna abasajja bano babikola. Lwaki babikola? Mbadde ndaba frontline olwaleero nga all these people are saying nti ensobi, omusajja tebamukolerako background check, omusajja tebamunyonyerezaako, ekibiina lwaki bakikwata biki, kugamba nga balinga abagamba nti yes, Museveni wakabi nnyo, mwaba people power muli babi nnyo okuba nti no mwatwala ekibiina ekya NUP oba mwagenda ne mubeera. Mpulidde Salaamu Nsumba ng'ayogera ebintu awo naye nga naye bannaye opposition wallahi, opposition ya Uganda These traditional people that simanyi kumanya. Salamu Subo Vatichi, I don't know, I don't think she represents FDC. The same thing, the problem with Norbert Mao, he represents NDP, erato ina agenjo damu chigambo Mao chavayo gende, wobanga guoni mwogezi. Because he has a real beef against the, NUP and against people power. Which is fine. But the way they portrayed their arguments was that the presence of soldiers, they do not show the bigger picture of a state. It is a democratic state. Okubanga esobola okukozesa tricks ezo nekozesa because the work of ISO si kubega ku bannansi oba si kweyingiza mu byabufuzi kutandika playing political games. Because if the work of the internal security organization is to portray propaganda against its own citizens, then the entire establishment of ISO should be scrapped. Teina kubeerawo. Simple as that. Because it is a station, Bainaka Patriotic Pulse TV, that is there to move propaganda of the state. Nga bamukozesa propaganda eriba na Uganda. Okubabuzabuza, ku-intimidating abantu, okukozesa coercion. They do not allow any sort of political divergent views in politics. Tebakkiriza. Now some of the people ababadde ku pano bagamba, yeah, we wish it was us. Of course, opportunity. Some of them just wish it was them. Ngabe bakutte. Now, Nzengamba went into Chibalama did his job. He did his job. Yakwate ekibiina n'asayininga buli kimu ng'ategeera maybe bamukubye bbaasa etewalika or something of that sort, because Nzembadde in that statement Joel agambye nti the gentleman was under duress, oba the gentleman yabaddeko gunpoint na biki. But Joel confirms that they dug up a few information, bagenza okunyonyereza ne balaba nga waliwo ebitagatta wakati wa ISO n'omukulu Kibalama, which is unfortunate because recently Kibalama yali avuddeyo n'agamba nti government yali emunyonya nti baali baagala moroka zimugoberera biki and all this kind of thing. So he didn't know the magnitude. Oba yayita manyi masanyalaze ki Bobi Wine gayina, oba tamanyi masanyalaze ga people power na kintu kyayingiride, how big it is. Kati ye agenda n'akireta with a small mentality. In the end agenza okulaba the thing is too big, and maybe it has been so big for him to handle. Because you cannot come out and claim nti mazima ddala Bobi Wine akusuubiza $5 million US. That is 18 billion Ugandan shillings. To put that into context, sente z'abasomesa ze baalidde abasomesa ba Uganda bonna, it is 11 billion. So that is just 8 billion more with a B. So you can't say that Bobi Wine yakusuubiza 8 million. And the next time when you're planning something, bw'oba mukola ekintu, temukola kintu nga kirimu gundi. You do something that is believable. Why would you use Pulse of all stations on Facebook, Patriotic Pulse TV, Racho Kosa Patriotic Pulse TV? Fena tujimanyi it is omukutu ogwa propaganda. We all know that. Why would you use Patriotic Pulse TV? It is a station that is not credible. Taina credibility, itocharinga abantu, bakwata abantu ne bakuba emiggo olumala ne babateeka ku kamera ne baboogeza. For Kibalama, I'm not sure nti oba bamwogeza oba nedda. But from the look of things kiragira ddala nti nno waliwo obuzibu obw'okuba nti mukadde waffe Kibalama ye ekintu alabika yakiridde, alabika yalidde something yawo kye tutategeera. Naye with evidence, as evidence comes out, tujja kulaba oba ddala omukulu. Because some people said Museveni yamuwadde oba billion meka. No. Museveni doesn't give out that amount of money. No. Tekiriyo. Kababulire. Museveni, omuntu yekka who is not worth, but whom Museveni can buy more than $1 billion. I think ayinza kubanga maybe nesenyo ninedda, maybe babe CJ abo webacho, but a person to be worth $1 billion in Museveni's government, it might be maybe Bobby Wine, but I'm not saying Bobby Wine is worth $1 billion Ugandan shillings. The context I'm making is Museveni cannot buy someone $1 billion shillings. It cannot happen. For good measure, Nabayo, teachers, Baba de wagena about 11 billion Ugandan shillings. Wobangwa dalobala ebyobufuzi. Nga esente bakanyuga wewa 11 billion. Lwaki omuntu tajja mu papa n'ayitayo naga okay kabampeyo nange 10 billion. Tazirina ezo. Now this is what he does. He cannot give you 10 billion, no? But kino kyakora, he will place you somewhere. Kyekigenda okufuuka ku kibalama, bayinza omuwa ekifo, bayinza omuwa ministry, bayinza omuwa department oba organi yonna, n'amuteeka oba mu KCC oba n'amuteeka mu ministry kati ne bamuweerayo omusaala obanga gwa 1.2 million per month oba n'amufuula RDC, things like that. That's what Museveni trades. But Museveni to get hard cash nti bazikuwe, no, it can't happen. That's not true. That's not true. Because gero nyonya abantu bameka ababadde mu government ya Museveni abavudde mu opposition ne bayingira government ya Museveni. How have they really changed, these people? They haven't changed. Tebakyukanga mu mbeera olwo balaba bakyali basiiwufu, they are not so happy, tebanyirira and so on and so forth. Because the moment you join NRM, no joining a party yawe, abakulina mu ttaano oba tokyalina leverage. Now, people who have gotten smarter with Museveni, this is what they do. They stay in the opposition, shout. Kati mukulekana ennyo, nga Museveni alina kyayagala oyisaawo, he comes, and he knows they cannot change, they cannot come into the NRM, nga wawayo z'abawa. Kati wabawayo z'abawa, then they shut up. Nga basirika ekintu nga bakireka. Kati nga balinda ekiddako. Nga baddamu, nga babula. Because the moment you cross that line, that is the end. Tebajja kuddamu kuwulira. The moment you cross that line, oba tokyaddamu kuwulikika. If you are to eat Museveni's money, ng'oyagala kuzirya, toyingira opposition, toyingira NRM. That is the simplest way. But my point today is this. Politics is not easy. And fighting for a nation is not easy. And creating revolutions is not easy. This is what we are up against. Against a dictator who has been in power for 35 years. Aine mundu, aina budget, ya what? Is it 35 million US dollars? Almost what? 4 trillion or I don't know, 45 trillion. Is that Uganda? Budget. He has all that budget. He has all that control. He can sit down. Alinga Caligula is like an African Caligula. Nti ye asobola okudecidinga whom to kill and whom not to kill. This one can die, this one can live. That's the power he has. That is the power of a dictator. He can decide. And this has happened. We know this. He has the power to manipulate. He has the power to control everything, like, so many things in the country. Simwangu, he's everywhere. From Arua to Kasese. From Kasese to Sese Islands, Kalangala, everywhere. A very powerful man. Very powerful. So, Amin is told that my point is not to kubabulira nti Museveni w'amaanyi nnyo. But the reason as why I'm telling you these things is for you to understand the people who raise up and stand against such a gentleman. These are heroic. Because if you come out today and you stand against that, you deserve a medal. It is not easy. So for anyone who comes out, nasigala true to their word, look here, I'm going to stand up against a dictator, 35 years in power, 76 years of age. newankubadde ayina emmundu, newankubadde ayina ssente, newankubadde controlling, he decides who lives, who dies. Even if he has all that power, I will stand up against him. It is not an easy job. It is not easy. So for you can sit back, because for we can just say, you know what, mwana, guy ajja kunzitira family, ajja kunzitira abaana, kangende mu joining. That is the simplest of tasks. In a struggle, that is the simplest. But these things we know they are coming. Betrayal, death, and everything is going to come. And we haven't even seen the worst of it. Because for the case that has happened today of Chibarama's case, we have seen worse. Omusajja bamutaddeko emisango gy'okuba nti teyasoma. Omusajja bamutaddeko emisango gy'okuba nti simanyi yatta abantu ebusaabala. All these cases, how come they do not come to the courts of law? If at all Museveni did not want Bobi Wine to be on the ballot, why does he go through all these channels? Rachita Muganda Buganyi kubera ku ballot. For me, these are the questions I ask myself. Okay, fine. Fine, that's right, that's true. Then let him not put him on the ballot. Simple as that. Why should we go through all this? The reason as to why we are going through all this is to kill the morale of the people. Is to kill the morale of the people who have stood with vigor, who have stood without fear against this dictatorship, who have sacrificed their time, money, and resources. It is to kill the morale. That's all. The issue is not to Kulemesa Bobi Wine to be on the ballot. No, the issue is actually to have Bobi Wine on the ballot, but to kill his votes and make sure that his people he mobilized to come and vote for him come 2021, they do not turn up. That's a simple thing. That's why they say, oh, Teyasoma, striking doubt in people's heads. Because the biggest battle now we have to fight is the battle of the mind. It's the battle of our understanding. When you see an issue, very, very big problem, sit down, think about it in 2 or 3 ways, in all different angles. Look at it. Then when you come at a decision, call a decision here. Otherwise, you're going to be caught off guard. So the person we are standing up against, you should know he's not an easy person. He's strong, no doubt. Very strong. I cannot stand here and go, Museveni is not strong. You cannot kufuga and say for 35 years. Corruption, everything happens. Nga people bachakugumikiriza. Olibye emyaka okyusiza constitution. Emisango gyoyagala gikolebweko gye gikolebwako, egitakolebwako tegikolebwako. You have gotten all your family obatadde mugundi mu government. Or creating a private army, the SFC, against the national army. Constitution yakuwa abakuumi, abapolisi n'abamaje. Tebateekawo mbuno special forces command yenjo kumanga president is not there in the constitution. Olumbye Bobi Wine ku ky'emyaka n'omulumba ku ky'okusoma, but in the return ate wagenda okulaba nti no weerumye, because the same things that you are using to attack the gentleman are the same things that you yourself tomirina. You see, the biggest thing in dictatorship is the Chinsa Yusachechino. Mutalaba. That Museveni is misinformed. He actually doesn't know what is going on. What is Museveni's motive in doing these things? What is the state's motive? Now, there's a possibility abakola ebintu bino, because kakati nekibalama byakola okukwatibwa kwa kibalama nekibalama byakola, ojja kulaba nti ekyo kyabadde tekiyinza kuyitira wa Baramu for some reason, I don't know why. Kyabadde tekiyinza kuyitira wa Baramu. But on the other hand, Baramu naye alina category ye y'abantu baakwata. So you see that these are all the same people working for the same gentleman. Nayenga, they are actually quite different players. Now, the thing is this. The gentleman is misinformed. That is why you see Ntinako Zunari very active on social media, because he's trying to get in touch directly n'abantu ku Facebook to see what the people are saying. Now, let me give you an example. Do you think the president will come out nti owa ISO oba omuntu akwira intelligence oba police asobola okuzukukolwa leero n'agenda n'agamba Museveni nti muzeeyi tokyalina buwagizi, abantu tebakyakwagala ng'oli wa ISO osobola ogenda n'okyogera? Tusobola. He's a 76-year-old man. Alina entondo. Oyina musuuta kumuwaana. Tya Museveni wa muzeeyi wabula oli waakabya olinga ow'emyaka 3. Pressure up z'okuba. Pressure up z'okuba kati weetaagayo hakki ento ya myaka 18. Ng'olowooza wayisa asobola okugenda n'amugamba nti no muzeeyi ojja kufuna heart attack, lekeraawo okukola pressure up. Do you think people around him can tell him such news? No. He surrounds himself with yes men that will tell him what he wants to hear. Now, in dictatorship, that happens because it happens, number one, out of fear. Nti wono mugamba amazima, you might end up in the ground. Wono mugamba amazima, you might lose your position. Kitegeeza nti tojja omulimu gw'obadde okola ojja kuba togufuna. Kati on top of that, tulina abantu take our measures to control information, to control dissent, no controlling discussions ku social media, oba ku social media, oba ku mawulire TV, ebimenza twala tugende. Now, buli wo blocking conversations ezo, tomanya kiki bantu kye bafiringa. Kati buli wo tamanya bantu kiki kye bafiringa. What happens is inti gojja kukola byokola ng'olowooza abantu bye baagala. It is just the entire opposite, that what you're doing is actually making you unpopular. Chemubamula banti avayo olwalero n'abagamba nti gundi yesse oba gundi mukulembeze ekyavaayo n'agamba nti zaake bamukubye emiggo naye olwamaze omukuba emiggo n'adduka ku kitanda n'agenda. They are actually making the president himself to look stupid. Nti zaake bamukubye emiggo n'ava ku kitanda n'atambula n'agenda. That is the reason as to why they are putting up Kakati. Because now what happens with that is the gentleman becomes misinformed. Kati wa becoming misinformed. Now blocking a channels is what happens is people go underground. Abantu buli we bagenda underground. That is the worst moment for any dictator. Munsi yonna. Because people start organizing nga bye bateesaako obanga ebibaluma tebakyabiteeka mu lujjudde babiteeseza eno wansi kigenda okuvaayo ekityo okubwatuka boom. You know how revolutions happen? That's how they happen. Mubaraka we batyo bamutwala, owe Morocco naye ne bamutwala, Algeria n'agenda, Sudan n'agenda, like that. Bwe kitandika mpola mpola goziba internet oziba kino osiba kiri naye tomanyi, because what happens wansi ate kiba kirala nnyo. Buli akuwaganya n'ogula ono n'ogula oli n'ogula ono n'ogula oli, toyagala kuwuliriza nsonga z'abantu wabula kyoyagala nti social media kacheze, tutekewo Social Media Misuse Act. Buli akozesa obubi omukutu akwatibwe asibibwe nti ekyo kiganye tubateekeko omusolo social media tax. Kino kiganye tuba registering. Now I see some people are falling for registration. Mubagenda ku registering mikutu gyabwe. Come on guys. Are we that naive? Nti ogenda kwata sente emitwalo 10 bajikwa mbokwate emitwalo 10 ogende otekeyo muba registering ekyoto. Muba registering whatever media joina. These people are stupid. I'm sorry to say, but Banabantu, whatever they are doing, only God knows. Because they've been trying more to what no tunula, no yagana na kuseka busesi. You just don't know what these people are actually doing or planning at all. Because there is a kubayo no ganti with Facebook page registering, YouTube channels also not registering. For heaven's sake, there are 31 million YouTube channels in the world. Ono registering a maker. No government websites is registering CNN, Daily Mail, The Sun, bichi. Are you going to block those good media houses? Lwachinzo oyagala ina omukuto ogwange kale gwe mpandikira ko lwaki oyagala registering? What if I'm registered somewhere else? Kakati abamu babalimbye babagambye nedda twagala basengeka mawulire. Boy, this is how it starts. Bajja kugamba nti baagala basengeka mawulire. Waliwo mu blogger gwe nalabya yagenze na registering omukutu gwe. Whatever, waliwo omukutu gwe babbo ogwa Ghetto TV nti bagenze bali ku registering mu gusenka mawulire. Yabadde website. Yabadde Facebook page. What does that tell you? Kati kino kigenda kujja oba okola entertainment oba okola sports, anything. That is what they want. The only way to fight back is to reject. Reject. Simple. Temubiri registering ayo. Nkati baba tereddewo akalala akalipo. Ne bagamba nti bagenda kubawa content fund. These are means to bribe people. Look here, if you take my money, if you take my bribe, notwala content fund sente zange zentaddewo mbozeewo zogenda okole content. Okay, if I make content yali critical against you, how will that work out? Mulira ng'otute content fund nenzija nenkola content oba nenzija nenkola nempandika blog oba nempandika article ng'eri against UCC. What will UCC do? They will just pull the fund, take the license away. When they take the license away, kitegeeza tukyasobola kukozesa Facebook, tukyasobola kukozesa Twitter or YouTube or owning a website. You can't do that. That means they can throw you in court. Because they have crafted these things slowly. Computer Misuse Act, yeyasooka. I think yeyasooka. Then ne batuleetera social media tax. Kakati batuleetedde simanyi registration, licensing and registration. Those three things. I'll expound on those ones more some other time. But anyway, just for good measure, kambabulire kino. Waliwo article eyafuluma mu March omwezi ogwokuna 2020. Yawandiikibwa omukola amanyikiddwa nga bamuyita Kaheru. Basinga ku mumanyi. Mbadde ndaba frontline leero ne baga odongo tunaga nti Bobi Wine eggulu taliyo peche taliyo bla 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 bla. Ne mwenda n'agamba simanyi Museveni yawininga with the percentage n'azogera awo. Kakati Guy yawandika article n'agamba nti 2021 election and the game changer districts. Yagamba nti Kampala and Wakiso are the most significant decision makers. Kampala with about 1.28 million voters is followed by Wakiso with a voting population of 1,165,000 Ugandans. So two districts, Kampala and Wakiso, zina over I think 3 million voters. Right? Roughly 3 million voters, Kampala and Wakiso. Guy Yagamba, if you intend to be a national political contender in the forthcoming election, and you are looking to really make a difference, then you have to talk to communities that will numerically influence the vote. Only 16 of the 135 districts, listen carefully, only 16 out of the 135 districts have immense power in their numbers to determine the political trajectory of Uganda at the 2021 polls. All factors remaining constant, of course. Electoral statistics show that 16 districts hold 35% of the country's entire voting population. They could swing the national election in whichever direction they choose, if they voted homogeneously, of course. Now, Kampala and Wakiso are the most significant decision makers. Kampala, with about 1.28 million voters, is followed by Wakiso with 1.160,000 voters. Both districts are in the central region, Buganda, and account for the biggest voting bloc countrywide. Of course, never mind, the voters in these areas may not be homogeneous. Statistically speaking, and putting in mind other influencing factors, a presidential candidate would need to successfully convince the electorate in the central region if they are to count their chances at the presidency. Other districts with high voting populations include Kasese 372,100 voters, Mukono 354,047 voters, Arua 328,415 voters, Jinja 274,772 voters, Tororo 222 voters, Ntungamo 253 voters, Zimbabwe 276,000 voters, Luwero 256,454 voters, Buyikwe 214 voters, Kamuli 233,930 voters, Mayuge 299,552 voters, Isingiro 221 voters, 221,811 voters, Lira 222 voters, and Chenjojo 207,370,000. A quick look at these figures easily paints a picture of how numbers will apply in the forthcoming general election. Any serious political contenders should now be adding and subtracting and balancing the numbers so they can benefit from them in 2021 metrics. But this is not to say politicians should only concentrate on winning the numbers over influencing the quality in political participation. The chronicle of the voter numbers is only half the story, though. Areas rich in voter figures have also become playgrounds for the manner of the electoral manipulation. Every politician wants to partake to these fertile hunting grounds. Past experience shows that violence during elections freeloads on areas with significant voting populations. The Central Region, for instance, was the theater of the 2001-6 electoral violence. The post-2011 elections walk-to-work protests happened mainly in Buganda region. Following the last general elections, there has been a pattern of election-related violence that trails densely in populated areas. For instance, in Kasese, experienced violence in the immediate post-2016 general election. Arua district in West Nile was another hotbed for violent scenes during the 2018 parliamentary by-election. Tension lasted with barbs of volatility characterized by the 2018 Lohama parliamentary by-election in Ntungamo district. On the other hand, electoral exercises in districts such as Moroto, which have smaller voter populations, have relatively been peaceful. How the 2021 election plays out will largely depend on the way the 16 voter-rich districts engage with the election. Now, in fact, it is these areas, he goes on to say, that could easily blaze a trail in manipulative practices such as voter bribery, tension, violence, vote rigging, unwarranted security interference in the elections, or even voter suppression. It is these same areas that could set up the tempo for better political electoral practices if they are collectively decided to. It is these districts that should ideally determine who is elected president of Uganda come 2021. Without doubt, these are the areas to keep on your watch list. Now, this was written by Simon Kaheru, Yanindo's Our Citizens Election for Electoral Democracy, SEDU. Okay, Now he makes guy akola analysis ennungi about the numbers. Agamba nti there are 16 districts in Uganda. Districts zino ze determining akalulu on where the election goes. Mujukira kiri ekigamba abantu kye bagamba wano Bobi Wine taliiwo, wano taliiwo, wali taliiwo, wano taliiwo. They say these things without putting in regard the number of population, about the population of people living in those districts who are voters. Abantu abalonda bali mu districts ezo. So he gives an example of districts like in Tungamo. Eina balonzo obenkomisa, I mean Moroto. Eina balonzo obenkomisatu. Arabe? I will have to look onto the EC data actually. I break down district by district. Ndabe districts chi zina balonzi bamenka. It doesn't mean that these balonzi don't matter. Nedda. It means that abalonzi bano oyina okubateekako essira naye oyina ate woyina okusinga okuteeka essira awali obululu. Fena tukimanyi bulungi Kampala ne Wakiso ze district ezisinga abalonzi. Kampala erina abalonzi miliyoni emu, erina abalonzi miliyoni emu mu emitwalo abiri. Wakiso erina abalonzi miliyoni emu mu emitwalo 16. Teri district endala eweza miliyoni y'abantu nga balonzi teriyo. Kampala ne Wakiso, they are the biggest voting districts. Kakati of course teri districts zino zombi teziyinza kuvotinga nti nno zonna bonna abalonzi miliyoni emu yonna yonna elonze Bobi Wine oba miliyoni emu yonna yonna elonze Museveni. Districts ziri 16 ezitetermining akalulu mu Uganda. Now, tukimanyi nti waliwo n'abantu abamu abatalonda. Ekyo Bobi Wine kyabadde asalidde amagezi nti get the people to go to the polls to vote. Kakati abantu babadde baba hypinze babatadde mu moodu ey'okugenda okukola ki? Okulonda. So he makes an analysis. Naga nti mu districts zino 16 mwe muli district ezebbiri ezisooka Kampala ne Wakiso. Naye ne kubaako ne districts zino wammanga nazo zirina abantu bangi. Kwe kuli Kasese erina abalonzi emitwalo 37, Mukono erina abalonzi emitwalo 35, Arua erina abalonzi emitwalo 32, Jinja erina emitwalo 27, Tororo erina emitwalo 26, Ntungamo erina emitwalo 26, Mbale erina emitwalo 25, Luwero erina emitwalo 25, Bwigwe erina emitwalo 23, Kamuli emitwalo 23, Mayuge emitwalo 22, Isingire emitwalo 22, Lira emitwalo 21. Chenjojo emitwalo 2. Mumanyi lwaki Bobi Wine badde bamugobayo ennyo mu Eastern Uganda by the way. Ene Kamuli, Buyikwe, Mbale, Jinja. You know why? I think that makes sense now. Museveni doesn't want him to become popular in these regions because he knows that is where the vote is. Kati jukira abantu bana abasinga abamu East bavu. These people are poor. Yewali envunza, yewali everything. Trust me. They just need a small awakening. Kantu katini nnyo kubajjukiza ne banaye mugende mulonde. Now they don't want that. That is why bali very, very brutal if he goes to Eastern Uganda. Because there are over, I think 4 districts there. Over 5 districts, 5 or 6 districts. Nga zina abalonzi abakunikiriza mu mitwalo 3. 300,000 voters. Kati what Museveni has to do is to make sure those people don't go to the polls. Because abalonzi ba Museveni bo bakozi ba sente. Omuntu alonda Museveni yaba alonze agenze kumulonda lwaki aflip. Aba agenze kumulonda lwa sente. Mostly. So kakati oli wavayo na gamba nti bannange wano Bobi Wine taliiwo wano NUP teri. Of course I understand there are some places NUP negundi wetanjja kujja nkikoleka analysis kulubaawo. There are some places where tutali. That is true. Naye nga amaanyi ge wandiradde mu kifo ekyo ne woba ogataddeyo kale ku last minute kiba kijja kukolera. Ate nga amaanyi g'oba otadde mu kifo ekyo district kuba kati I think these things we should know. Kuba kati ebifo ng'ebyo n'omanya nti Moroto wali abalonzi 3,000. Kakati abalonzi 3,000 bonna ne of course bonna tebajja kulonda. kuyinza okubaako abalonzi nga 2 abalonze oba abalonzi nga 100 kati kitegeeza Museveni ne wanatopingawo buli obululu 2,000 you can make it up Kamuli oba ebuyikwe n'obudabolinga obwo obululu because bwe baba 3,000 kitegeeza obululu 3,000 togenda kubusussa Muloto togenda kusussa bululu 1,000 naye ate nga wona ogenda n'oteeka amaanyi of course abantu be Muloto olina bafaako at least obayitamu kkono bagamba naye vote Bobi Wine naye ate to some extent olina okwongeza amaanyi Wakiso abantu bagende balonde obululu bwe wandiruzinze Muloto obongeremu Wakiso obongeremu Wakiso obe Kamuli obe Chenjojo and these other places Buyikwe Mbale Luwero Chiraba. So I'll look for these other districts. Nabadengezako kunyonya ku website ya EC ndabe how other districts measure up because twina districts sikati nyingi. Newe njogera kati bayinza ko Saturday empya 135 districts. Naye ku districts 13 districts 16 zokka zina abalonzi abasokka mu mitwalo 200 endala tezisukkawo kakati omusajja ono era mu analysis ye n'akulaga nti districts zino ezirina abantu abangi every after an elections zitera okubaawo n'obutabanguko. For example, mu mwezi gwa 2016 Kasese bayinayo ekitta bantu ekyaliwo after 2016 nga watulira Kasese ina abalonzi abasukka 300 n'otunulira 2001 to 2006 walk to work protests zali Buganda region Kasese 2016 ojja kulaba nti mu Arua oba mu West Nile district era nayo waliyo abalonzi almost 300 era nayo yalina violence yaliwo oluvannyuma lw'akalulu ka Kasirano Wadri by election 2018 kiwulira Luhama nayo waliyo violence nyingi Luhama parliamentary by election in Ntungamo district namwo walimu violence in fact Buyikwe ewasmani basalira waliwo abantu waliwo omuntu eyattibwa nti ojja genda okusanga nti districts zino naddala 16 zino ezirina abantu abangi ziba ne si violence wabula ziba ne protests zino ez'abantu okwekalakaasa every after an election. So kyemba mulaba nga nena kyemalira naye tatudde ayina byazanya ayina byabala naye nga nekyagulanye naye tatudde naye kyabala akimanyi akitegeera because I had not followed these numbers to see what the different voters in different districts, but when I came across this I think it was quite interesting. The major purpose now is to get people out there to go and vote. I think Echachibarama, it will also come to pass. Because look here, as I always tell people, Museveni wabanga tayagala Bobi Wine ku ballot. He can do that. So look here, Chakumacha. Nagama tajajiberako. Right? Na ye, olina akubuuza at what cost? That's the biggest question. At what cost? Because those are two completely different things. Oyinza gamba nti nedda abo abalina Uganda bonna wemba njagala nsobola obbatta. Okay, kale osobola obbatta fine. Naye bwe banakukkiriza okubeerawo ng'omaze okutta abantu baabwe. Era gwe banaatuusa okuba ng'ottibwa. How will that be? waliwo abantu be bapangisa ennaku zino abakaaba ku mikolo gy'okukaaba ne Bungereza wano webali baba basasula £45 okukaabira abafu omufojja nga tomumanyi naye bakubriefinga nti abadde bwati ne bwati najja n'omukaabira okukaabira abafu ne gundi bakikola nnyo North Korea. Naye nze bw'obanga ekyo kyogenda okutuusa ku bannansi nze abakaabira omukulembeze sijja kubaamu mujja kgenda mugula abo abakaabira abantu bajja mukaabira but me siyinza kubeera mu abo abakaabira Museveni ku bintu byakola seriously. So kankome wano nakwatagana anyway nja following nsonga ya Kibalama just nyagadde ku replyinga oba kwogerako ku bibadde ku frontline katono because olabira ddala opposition but like the other guys baagalira ddala NUP failing baagala Bobi Wine failing baagala people power failing. I don't know why are these people so bad like simanyi lwaki like n'obusungu buno ku people power ne NUP ne Bobi Wine. I don't know why simanyi. That is what people are again. Bobi Wine chovola, it is not easy. Omuntu wavaayo n'ayimirira mu NUP nze abantu abo abavaayo abakazi bonna bakola sign language bani balewisi basenyonyi all those people abali ku secretariat yabo bonna everyone buli avaayo n'ayimirira against this kind of intimidation okuvoola okuvuma okuwemula all this kind. If people come out and stand up against that Joran's man, Bobi Wine mujira enkofiira if it was singa yalinze within these 2 years you could break down because one thing after the other musajja watu yakaba ku byokusoma kakati bamuzizza ku kino kati bataddewo kino mbona agenda kujja mu kooti ndabyawo nga mawo babyogera n'odongo oto n'enseka n'okuseka nga babo balinga abagamba nti owedde gwe kati Museveni akulina owedde gwe twakugoninga twakugamba owedde kakati wagenda n'abasajja babavaawa nga balinga kwegamba batwalira ddala Bobi Wine okubanga amacha talina kyamanyi. That is what the gentleman Jangulanyi is against. Kakati ffe abamu kufe that resilience okulemerako okwo okufighta okwo it is what attracts us to Bobi Wine because these people want to make him feel nti ali yekka nti he has no support, there is no one else left because that's what the dictator does. Nti Museveni yaba ayagala kujja kwawule ku bantu titeri muntu akwagala abantu tebakuwagira teri muntu akuwagira no one toli muntu ajana kuna kukabira ngo initi kutoza that's what he wants. But whenever you people come out ne mugenda wali ku ndaba NTV akawongezi ogenda okulaba abaana baposting ebifaananyi people power NUP ku NTV akawongezi everyone is watching NTV akawongezi ate abasinga there is a possibility abasinga bagirabira online abaana ne baposting ebifaananyi by'aba candidates b'NUP ne babipostinga ku YouTube ku Facebook ngeno no live egenda maaso wogenda mu comments za Museveni post zateeka oyinza ogamba ba comments za Museveni za NRM kangene nsome mu comments za NRM osanga kuli NUP n'osanga ebifaananyi bya NUP n'osanga buli kimu NUP n'ogamba naye what is this? That is it. Ekyo muzeyi tayagala kiraba Museveni tayagala kiraba ekyo because he knows that people are with Kyagulanyi. He doesn't want that. Kakati fe tulina okukola is to show support to everyone who are buli agenda wasalam. Thank you very much for your contribution. Bye bye. Buli asigadde tulina kwongera kubagumya that guys look here it is not easy to stand up against a dictator. There were people like Hitler. But just imagine people who stood up against Hitler in those days. Imagine those Jews who stood up. Nibagati, we shall not kill these people. We shall not put these people in the gas chambers. Hitler was very bad to the extent that nti yakwatanga abantu n'abateeka mu incinerators ng'omuli balamu abalema biki they would just put you ne babasuula mu gas chamber ne babookya oba ne babakumako omuliro. That's Hitler for you. Now, if someone wakes up today and he stands up against that, I will not coach abantu. There is a time, by the way, Hitler, let me give you a history lesson. This is what happened. They were killing people but he killed 16 million Jews. I mean, was it 6 million Jews? Abasajja ba Hitler ba Gestapo ezo secret police Gestapo bali bagita secret police ngabayita Gestapos. Then in the concentration camps in Auschwitz ngayo bachogeramu Auschwitz kati nga bakwata abantu ne babatwala ne babasimisa mass graves. Kati nga batuuka waliye ne babakuba amasasi ne bafa. Now this happened. The German soldiers killed so many people to the extent that Ntibali like bagwe darunga nebachasobola kutta abantu. Like they became batu kechiranga they can no longer kill people using the gun because the gun would shoot one bullet. Pa just imagine omulimu gokera kumacha kuba abantu sasi kumutta. Pa they could no longer kill. So kakami watu kakusecho nga tebakyasobola kutta ne bagamba, you know what, let us invent gas chambers, let us invent incinerators tubasindike tugende nga tubatta. That is what these people stood up against. Ne bagamba this world tetusobola kubeera n'abantu nga Hitler n'abamwefaananyiriza embeera ze. Tetusobola kubeera n'abadictator. No more dictators in this world. We cannot live with people like this. But that's not the moral of the story. The story, the people who come up and stand against these people. Because these people are so brutal. The people who come up, those people, props for them. Omuntu avaayo n'ayimirira asinga abamwenda 10 abasoma ebitabo. Asinga bamawo 10 aboogera enzungu ne baziwunzika because bo balinga abatalaba kizibu kyansi eno. Tebakiraba. So whoever is out there doing the job of standing up against Museveni and his cronies, man, thank you very much. You guys do a good job. And for that reason, bye bye. Have a good night.